they come in off of Elm Street in Mayville. They come up to the drive-through and identify themselves. They're confirmed with dispatch or the master control room. They drive into the sally port. The doors close. Now there's nowhere to go. So if they escape from the back of the car, they can't get anywhere.
Does that happen? How's that happen?
Many years ago, when we first added a garage to the jail, this is before my time, with the sheriff's office, we had a murderer that was brought here, and he had been a trustee previous, but in between the time he left here and then got rearrested, we'd added this garage. Not this one.
Is what?
They're inmates that are trusted more, that do work around the jail, like in the kitchen, they clean, right. And so when he got here, he had freed himself from the handcuffs and shackles, but he was in the garage when he got loose, so there's nowhere for him to go.
Right.
So anyway, they start here, and then there's assumption made that they've been searched, but they get researched once they hit the booking room, changed over into jail garb, showered, and then brought upstairs to the cell. They're assigned a certain cell based on their classification. So they're here before we open any doors. There's nowhere for them to go.
Right.
So it's, again,
so that door closes and that opens.
Right. That door can't open while that door's open.
Gotcha.
So they got an inmate in here now. So now one of the things you take for granted is they're wearing clothing when they come in here. They have their personal effects. They have to be changed over. We have to store all that clothing. So we have a huge room, all alphabetized. So, and it's well ventilated because some of these clothes have not been washed in a long time. So, you take for granted we got to deal with all their personal property when they come in, and then it's returned to them when they leave, or transferred to them if they get transferred to state prison or another jail. A jail should operate at about 80 to 85% of its total capacity. That's really where you should be, so we can classify appropriately, move certain types of inmates away from others, and you have keepaways. You've got people that can't be in the same area together because they're assaultive. They might be co-defendants. They might be defendant versus witness. So you should have that flexibility of about 15% open capacity, and we haven't. We've been over capacity, significantly.
Okay.
Now, by law, we have to provide the inmates with the ability to go have rec outside. So that's the rec yard. We don't have any niceties here like basketball and weights. It's not the Y, it's jail. So I got rid of all that many years ago.
Right. Is it true that you're doing more with less these days?
Well, not necessarily. The cost of operation goes up as salaries go up, and those are negotiated through union contract talks, and the cost of doing business, just like our home costs. The cost of food, the cost for medication, gasoline, all that stuff you have to deal with, and it impacts us in operating a facility like this, just like it does a business or a home. So
when you first became sheriff, what was the state of the process here? You talked a little bit about the changes and the evolution, but you've done a lot since the last 5 years. The EMT process for the sheriff's office, other things like the 911 center, which I know you hold high for yourself and others. I mean, it's evolving still, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And that's what makes the job so challenging and enjoyable in a sense, because there are always new challenges. And there's been a lot, we've done. The growth of the jail because of the population, that's happened during my administration. We've had to make adjustments, and those aren't popular. People don't like to spend money on jails, but it was a necessity. 911 is a huge responsibility for us, and we've upgraded the technology to the state of the art, and we're trying to deliver the best public safety we can to the residents of the county. That's ever changing. It's going to change again because technology changes. Something I take pride in. We have one of the 5 accreditations that the sheriff's office holds is for the jail, and that was a big lift to get us accredited. Means that our process, our policies and practices meet or exceed the highest acceptable standards in the state of New York. And this is just a dedication plaque from when we opened in '07. It's chow time. The evening meal is a little lighter. But they get breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then they can buy additional food stuff through the jail commissary. That is done by a third party, so they do an order on a kiosk, and then that food is delivered to them. But we don't provide things that are not essential nutritional. So if they want coffee, they got to buy their own coffee. We're not going to spend money on coffee for inmates. If they want snack food, they got to buy that. So they get their money through people that drop off money for them or put money in their account, or if they had money on booking, they can't physically have money in the jail. It goes in an account, and then they electronically can apply that through a kiosk.
How much progress have you made with your website? Because not only does it let the public know who's locked up in case there's victims out there, but you can also be interactive if you have a family member here with visitation, commissary, as you said.
You can do video visiting.
And that wasn't always the case with your website,
not at
right?
all. No, we added video visitation because we thought it would reduce the number of on-site visitors, which reduces contraband potential, but it would give people that have faraway relatives the ability to still have visitation, but there's a cost to that. They have to pay for it.
Sure.
A building can only be used so long.
Yeah.
And this is 80 years, that we've been using this building. So these cells are mechanically controlled, and it is the same mechanisms that we're using in Alcatraz. To have something work this long with, it's not without mechanical failure, but in order for us to open the cells, they're actually released here, and it opens the cell door, and then there's a sally port, so they can't come out into the hallway until they enter the sally port, and the door behind them is locked. Ingenious, but it's beyond its useful life. And it's not as staff effective as the other parts of the jail. The 48-man housing unit has one correction officer in it. You've got a 26-bed unit here with one correction officer, and it's just common sense and math. Here on this floor, we have two correction officers, one for this section and one for the 26-bed housing. The street cops will deal with somebody who's incorrigible or maybe has issues that are mental health related or violence, and they deal with them for 10, 20 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, and then we get them for a year or two or more. And the men and women that work in corrections have to put up with some of the most difficult people in our society every day, and they don't get the accolades that they should for doing that job. This is the SHU, so people that are in the SHU have violated rules and procedures of the jail or assaulted other inmates or assaulted staff, and they're kept confined 23 hours a day in their cell. They get an hour a day out for recreation, exercise, and showers, personal hygiene.
Just a little reminder of almost like the jail is society and the SHU is jail, in a sense.
It's where the bad guys go. Now, new rule changes will mandate us to give them 4 hours out of the 24.
Is that statewide?
Statewide,
Okay.
yeah. When this jail was built, one of the things they did that was really smart, in the 30s, they built this, and they built a tunnel under the road. So that tunnel goes all the way under Chautauqua Street and comes out in the county court.
So this tunnel is used for taking inmates to back and forth to court?
Right, we can take them directly from their cell areas right through the tunnel and into the courtroom, and we don't have the exposure of them for escape purposes. And if there's somebody who is high risk, or the public is, they're in danger because of threats from others, they don't get exposed to others. But there are some people that have made this trip through the tunnel that have never seen daylight again, if you will. I mean, They've never been gone to county court, been sentenced to life in prison, back through the tunnel, and then they're being transferred to state prisons.
So we've heard about the word recidivism, and we know what a challenge it is. What does it do to one person or many people that keep coming back? Because you have guys, and we won't name names, but you have guys that come back again and again and again and again. What does it do to those people? Do they become institutionalized?
Oh, no question about it. Institutionalization is, and actually the term that's used is prisonization. Some, that's their way of life. We have an inmate, no, he's not here now, but we have an individual who's been booked into this jail over 100 times in his life. But obviously he's fallen through the cracks and never been picked up.
Right.
And substance abuse is an absolute issue with this individual. But there's a lot of recidivism, and there's people that come through these doors that will never come back. And for a lot of reasons, and they're all so different. That's what makes it challenging.
Do you see hope stories, Joe?
No, all the time. Yeah, all the time. I had a young man who actually came to my attention from a former employer of his. He had actually been arrested during the time he was employed. That employer said, look, he's salvageable. And we worked with him and found out that he had a very serious charge that served prison time for, and then had gotten released, gotten hired, and then got rearrested. But here's a case where he eventually got into a diversion program through the state and has been successful, and he's employed and has been arrest-free for probably, now it's been 6 or 7 years. So you get success stories. That's what we want. We're not looking to, ideally we wouldn't have crime and we wouldn't have a jail. But that's a pipe dream, unfortunately.